I want to start off by giving all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders. Peace, blessings, and honors to all the brothers in this truth. Particular Apostle Rhyme Lob. I was watching a video and he was breaking down the cavemen's, and I put the spirit on me to, just continue spreading the truth too, and doing my part. So I'm going to name this caveman, and just go into some of the things about the caveman. What you see on your screen right now is a caveman. We know that that goes back to the so-called the Caucasians, or the so-called Edomites. When they call themselves white people today, they go back to the caveman. We know caveman was a base man living in caves. That's where the name come from. Throwing rocks at each other, picking lice out their hair, sitting there not doing nothing, dumb shit all day, right? But it's funny how today, we get bywords and proverbs put on us, and they say we're monkeys, and they say we're apes, and we're not shit, and we're dumb people, and, none of the pharaohs could have been black because we're not smart enough and stuff like that. But you fucks, y'all go back to the cavemen, and the Bible breaks this down. And, I mean, even when you go to, matter of fact, let's jump there first. Even when you go to Genesis 25, right? So what you're seeing on your screen is a caveman, a Edomite, right? Now, when you go to Genesis 25, now match this up, right? We're going to match this up. Let me get there. This going to be quick. This ain't going to be too long. The hypocrisy, right? Genesis 25, when we're breaking down Esau, right? Esau and Jacob. So this is Genesis 25, verse 25. It says, and the first came out red. So when you looking on your screen, he's not white. They call himself white because white means pure. They're not really white. Nobody on earth is really white. They're red, pale. So what you're seeing is the redness is because the blood shows through their pale skin. You can see the blood through their skin. That's why you have a such thing called rednecks, because when they're in the heat, they're in the south, their blood comes up and shows through their skin, which makes them appear to be red. Really, they're pale. So when it says the first came out red all over, what does it mean he came out red all over? It's talking about his skin. What's something that's going to be all over you when you come out in as a appearance when somebody's looking at you? It's going to be your skin. They're going to see your image, your appearance, and his appearance was red. It wasn't a black man with ruddy skin. No, he was a red man, like you see on your screen, all over like a hairy garment. And they called his name Esau. In the Hebrew means wasted away, because he looked different than his brother, because his skin was wasted away. If you have ears to hear in the spirit, right? Esau is Cain reincarnated, because the mark that was put on Cain, Esau came out with that mark, which is leprous skin, clean leprous skin, so like you're not going to touch them and you get leprosy. But that's the mark, and that's the curse that the Lord put on them to identify them. It says, verse 26, and after that came his brother out. And Esau, so when it says his brother Jacob, it doesn't give his image. Why? Because he looked like his mother. He looked like his father, which goes all the way back to, all the men on earth had color during that time. And this is the first time. That's why it's so that man came out with a different color, which is Esau. And that's why it's such a big mystery, even to this day. That's the crazy thing about it. It says, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel, right? Which represents that Esau will have his kingdom first, because it tells you that in 2 Esdras chapter 6, I believe, verse 9, Esau's the end of the world. So he will have his kingdom, and then the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of God, which is for the Israelites only. You have to come through that man Jacob. We will have our kingdom next, which is what we're about to get. We're getting very close to the end. And going to Genesis 27, it breaks down that kingdom. Esau, Jacob got blessed with a kingdom from his father Isaac, and Esau did. Esau kingdom, the difference is that Esau will rule the world with the sword. So that's how we know who the Edomites are, because who rules the world? Right? You have to say so-called Caucasian people. And how do they rule it? With their armies, the sword. And then of Jacob got a kingdom, and he will be Lord over his brethren, which means that we're going to have the kingdom of heaven, and the other nations are going to get taken into captivity. It's all right there, It says, and his name was called Jacob, and Isaac was 80 years old when she buried them. And the boys grew. Esau was a cunning hunter. So, I mean, just look at America. What's the percentage of hunters, like real hunters that hunt every season and stuff, compared to whites and blacks? It's going to be majority is going to be whites. It says a man of the field, a major majority really of the field. So you can even see it in the things he do today. He's a cunning hard hunter. He's a man of the field, out there just killing all the animals and shit like that, causing them to go to extinct, taking all the lobster, crab, and shrimp out the ocean, and causing all the, fishes and all that to go extinct, because he's just, man, the wicked, like it tells you in Malachi chapter 1. It says that Jacob was a plain man, right? Proverbs, I believe that's 29. When the wicked is in rulership, you could tell the earth mourns. It says dwelling in tents. So just like with the Israelites today, you could see that we more a city. That's why you got such thing called city girls or city boys. We like plain men. Like we like to do just regular shit, like play a game or go to a cookout or be around each other and go to the club. What do blacks do? The black so-called Negroes, what do they do the most? You go to work, you get a paycheck. The women and man, they buy clothing for the weekend, and then on the weekend they go to the club. They go to the club, they party amongst each other, dwelling in the tents, right? House parties, clubs, they all got to be together. And then after that, they go home and they call it a weekend. Then they start their next week, and then they do the same thing the next weekend. That's what majority of the so-called blacks, Hispanics do. Get some beers. But what do Esau do? Esau be all climbing Mount Everest and in jungles and forests and skiing and doing all that extra shit. You know what I mean? That's why a lot of them be losing their lives doing that crazy shit. Jumping in frozen river, frozen whatever, ponds and lakes and shit like that. Like, they like to do that shit, wrestling with bears and shit like that. Crazy shit. Salaki. Let me see what this is. No, I'm not gonna do it. Fuck it. So through the spirit, you can see these things when you start to get the understanding. Now, the cavemen, here, let me see. I got an article breaking down the cavemen. See right there, you see another picture of these cavemen, and you see the big cave behind them and stuff like that. It's the same thing today. So like today, Esau, back then in the day, he lived in caves. And he even had a mountain called Mount Seir. So they've been doing this shit. So now that they got America, the spirit, you can't get rid of the spirit. You see what I'm saying? So that spirit to live in those high places was still on them. That's why they created something that started over here in America, I believe in Chicago, something called a skyscraper. Because that reminds them of the caves they used to live in, because they are the cavemen. So now in the skyscraper just like a big mountain. You got the clefts of the rocks, and you got different spots where you could come out and you could see down the whole mountain, and you super high up. It's just like a skyscraper. You super high up, and then you could look out the window and you could see down. You gotta climb and shit like that, but you just use an elevator. Now you just use an elevator to climb up to your floor. You see what I'm saying? If you had a certain spot in the cave when you was a caveman, your own little spot, you would have to climb up the mountain at the base, and you have to go through the mountain in the passageways, and then you have to get to your little spot. So it's still the same thing in the spirit. You got to be spiritual to be able to see these things and understand some of these things. Now, this from Wikipedia. It says cavemen are typically portrayed as wearing shaggy animal hides and capable of cave paintings like behavioral modern humans of last glacial period. They are often shown armed with rocks and kettle bones clubs and a stick that are also adorned with rocks and are portrayed as unintelligent and aggressive. So they like to talk shit about the Israelites, but they really the unintelligent ones, because they don't see how they're in the trick bag and how the Lord got them in the trick bag. They want to go against the Lord. They do not follow the Lord or the law, statutes, and commandments, and that's a very intelligent thing to do. And aggressive. We see that they're very aggressive. Look what they did to the so-called Negroes. That was a very aggressive move, the transatlantic slave trade. Look what they did when they came over here with the Native Americans. The Native Americans was trying to be peaceful, help them survive, which they did help them survive, and they taught them the land. But Esau was so aggressive that he had it in his heart. He had war in his heart the whole time. They're more aggressive than us. They like to portray like we're aggressive because we're a people in captivity, and that causes us to have an evil eye towards each other, and the curses on us, and that causes us to do aggressive and commit crimes in order to try to survive. But in reality, we're not aggressive people, But Esau really is the aggressive one. It says, but he just tricking the whole world. Popular culture also frequently represents cavemen as living with or alongside dinosaurs. And you could tell they was aggressive because when they came out of those caves, what did they do? The first thing they had in their heart was to go to war. I mean, look at during the time of the Greeks. Alexander the Greek, that's kind of like their first major kingdom when they came into power was with the Greeks. What did they do to get that? They went to war with all the other nations. They went to war with the Israelites. They were very aggressive. You see what I'm saying? It says, then they put some bullshit ass years on it because they don't want you to know the true time period because they don't want you to be able to match up the who they really is, who traces back to them, even though you can see it through the spirit. That's why they come with the 660 million BC years. No, that was way far off. It's not. It's not that far off, bro. During the dark ages and stuff like that, they were very base men. They were cavemen. That's not too far off. That's right before the Greeks. You see what I'm saying? It says the era that most people think of when they talk about caveman is the Paleolithic era, sometimes referred to as the Stone Ages. Right now, because they got some bullshit as years on there. This says the image of them living in caves arises from the fact that caves are where the predominance of artifacts have been found in Europe's Stone Age culture. However, this most likely reflects on the degree of preservation that caves provide over a millennium rather than an indication of their typical form of shelter. But that was their typical form of shelter. And you can see it today, even with the cities. They like to live in high places. Right, so now here, let me see. Let me go back to that. This is Obadiah chapter 1, verse 1. The vision of Obadiah. Thus saith the Lord God concerning Edom, right? We have heard a rumor from the Lord, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye and let us rise up against her in battle. That's going to happen. It says, behold, I have made thee small among the heathen, thou art greatly despised. America, which is controlled by the Edomites, or is a greatly despised place, and it's going to get worse and worse when this war break out with Russia. It says, the pride of thy heart has deceived thee, and America is very pride. That's why they have an eagle set up as the national image, the eagle, because it's a very proud animal. It really don't have any predator over it. It could just go where it wants to go. It glides the skies, and it comes down and do what it wants to do. It's pretty much untouchable, an eagle. You see what I'm saying? It's one of the biggest, most fierce birds in the sky. And, when you have power over the sky, you have the advantage. And the Lord has true power over the sky, even though Esau is in his kingdom and the Lord gave him power over the skies. But then he going to see who's really superior over the skies when the Lord comes back to go to war with him. With those chariots, which the world calls so-called UFOs, right? And they very prideful. That's why a lot of people hate America, because they look at Americans as very prideful. It said, but that pride deceived thee. You can read about that in Psalms chapter 2. It says, thou that dwelleth in the cleft of the rocks, the clefts, the caves, whose habitation is high. Yeah, from the mountains, the caves and the mountains. That say in his heart, who should bring me down to the ground? And like we just said, the Lord's going to bring him down to the ground. Though thou exalt thyself as an eagle, look up the image of America, the bird, which is what? An eagle. That though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord. And they went into the heavens. With they got space stations, they got satellites, they got jets all up in there in the up in the heavens and stuff like that. The Lord's going to bring all that down. None of that's going to remain up there. I think it speaks about that in Revelation chapter 12, starting at verse 7. It talks about the war in the heaven, and they're going to be cast out the heavens, right? Now, let me jump to one more precept. Go back to the book of Genesis. The Lord's gonna throw them down, man. And none of they satellites, they space stations, all that shit is gonna be cast down to the ground when the Lord destroys them. None of that, when the Lord sets up the kingdom of heaven, none of that is gonna be in the skies. You know, we're not gonna be in the kingdom of heaven, which is gonna be on earth. That's Revelation 21. And then you're gonna see a satellite, one of Esau old satellites, flying by us. That shit's not gonna happen, man. That shit's not gonna happen. So what's gonna happen to it? They gonna be destroyed. It says Genesis 36, verse 8. It says, "Thus dwell Esau and Mount Seir." Esau is Edom, right? Because they dwell in those mountains. "And these are the generations of Esau, the fathers of the Edomites in Mount Seir." It says in Mount Seir. So if they dealt in Mount Seir, what do you think they were doing? They were living in those different places. They go back to the cavemen, So we pulled a couple scriptures just to spiritually show you, if you have ears to hear, how the so-called Edomite today, the Caucasian man, the white man, goes back to the caveman, and it's spiritual and it's edifying because just more information and detail of who this man is coming out. So this could happen. One more precept. Just more information, right? Is coming out to expose this man for who he truly is, right? This is 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, right? Verse 3. "Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day should come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed." So that's why all this evidence and all this information and history is coming out, so that man of sin can be revealed. The son of perdition, who opposes, and he man of sin because he's so aggressive and wicked, like you said. In the article on Wikipedia we was reading, it says, "Who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God." How did he do that? He even, like it said, he set his nest among the stars. He even went up there and said, "Look, I gotta get into the heavens." Why? Because they seen the chariots in the heaven. They said, look at those chariots. We got to get that type of power. We got to get up there. So right now what they're trying to do is coming with the whole Space Force shit, or whatever it's called. What they're doing now is trying to develop technology as much as they can and get the strongest weapons, the most best weapons they can, so they could put up the biggest fight they can against the Lord. And that's a very prideful thing, because they don't want to be in subjection to the Lord. They want to fight against the Lord. That's why you're going to have a war in the heavens, going back to Revelation chapter 12. It says, "Who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself he is God." How do he do that? I mean, you look on the internet, you look up God or you look up Jesus, his image is going to pop up. A fucking image of a caveman, right? A modern day caveman, an Edomite. But even in the world, he tries to show himself that he's God by having control over the other nations, especially the Israelites, right? And the way he do that is with his technologies, things such as space stations and satellites, that a lot of times Esau sends drones or satellites, and he could spy on you from them and see what you're doing to be able to take you down. So he's kind of trying to show his power like he's God, but he's not, and he's going to be revealed. So with that, I'm going to say salvation to the elect. Hopefully this was edifying. Shalom.